Welcome to Burnley College's Science Festival and to this video called Tactical Tanks. We're going to be looking at how tanks changed from World War I to World War II, the key features of a good tank, and there's some fun activities at the end. So how did the tank come about? Well, they weren't used until 1916 and they were first used by the British. Improvements in heavy artillery meant that both sides could use bigger weapons and bigger shells, but didn't know how to move them closer to the enemy. Being closer meant they'd be more likely to hit their targets. The British used their first tanks at the Somme, with other countries soon following. The Germans used their first tanks after seeing the British ones rolling across no man's land. There were a few problems with early tanks. The ground made it difficult for most tanks to move over, and a lot ended up getting stuck in ditches. Vision was limited, so tanks were sometimes driven in the wrong directions or into large pits from which they couldn't get out of. The armour had some weak areas too, which meant a machine gun could kill the driver and stop the tank from moving further. The turrets in most tanks were also on the sides and struggled to aim properly due to bad weather, especially in autumn and winter. 20 years later, tanks did improve due to research. Lighter, smaller and more turnable tanks were made to help with swift attacks. Turrets were mainly placed on top of the tanks so that the main gunner could always look out the top if it was struggling to aim. The treads were stronger but not as wide, meaning they were less likely to break and could be easily replaced if need be. Some tanks were also created to work best in different environments, from grassy France to sandy North Africa to even snowy Russia. Even though tanks improved massively between the wars, the lack of battles in between to properly test them meant there were still improvements to be made. Size continued to change as countries developed tanks for different environments and for different purposes. The amount of ammunition and devastation a tank could carry was also constantly changed, some tanks only being able to fire a few shells before running out of ammo. The use of tanks for other elements such as recon and scouting were also being explored, as tanks can normally be spotted easily and so weren't ideal for spying on the enemy. It's time to have a go at some activities. Accompanying this video are two packs. There is a colouring pack full of blank tanks to be made colourful. Think about the weather these tanks would be in, as you wouldn't want them to stand out. There is also a design pack for those wanting to create their own tank. Use the checklist in the pack and the information from this video to make your tank the best it can possibly be.